Okay. So this is Coffee with Katie, and I'm really glad you're here. We have a guest speaker today. I guess a guest, not necessarily a speaker. We're going to be talking, we're going to be interacting, and we're going to be talking about gala fundraisers, which are not traditionally a tactic we use in cooperative fundraising, but they are very successful in the nonprofit world to raise funds. And Suncoast Market, which is where Shannon is from. Shannon is our guest. Suncoast Market is in Imperial Beach, California. And I've had the opportunity to visit there. I had an aunt who lived in San Diego. It's a beautiful place, and it's going to be a wonderful location for a cooperative. They've done great work at Suncoast Market, this gala fundraiser being one example of the innovative ways they have capitalized their store. So Shannon, maybe you could just start by telling us a little bit about your co-op and where you are in development, and then we can get into the gala fundraiser.
Great. So thanks for having me. And Suncoast Market Co-op is in Imperial Beach, California. So we are the most southwesternly city in the United States. So we're right on the border of Mexico, just across from Tijuana. And so we started organizing in late 2015, really started taking owners at the beginning of 2018. And then we have a lease on a site. We're still in our contingency period on that, waiting on all of the numbers and all of the things and permits to be done. And so if all goes well, we expect to be open by next summer is sort of the plan that we're at. We just hired our general manager, although we haven't announced it yet. It just happened. We're waiting for the attorney to send the lease, and we've got close to 1,200 owners now, hoping for at least 1,400 by opening. So that's where we're at, sort of in the process of things.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And Nellie, I see we've had someone join us. Welcome, Nellie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. What co-op are you with, Nellie?
I'm with Westchester Co-op. We're in Westchester, Pennsylvania.
Fantastic. I'm glad you're here. Nellie, I have a sister named Nellie. And
that's unusual.
Exactly. I have never encountered another human named Nellie. It's nice to meet you. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Okay, so back to our gala fundraiser. So thanks for giving us kind of the lay of the land, Shannon. Why don't you set the stage for us of your fundraiser, this gala fundraiser you held?
Yes, so they definitely are not traditional for co-ops, and definitely weren't something that was part of our long-term fundraising strategy. We didn't ever factor that into the equation. I want to preface things, actually. I should say one thing that we're doing differently is our community is a low to moderate income community. There's only one other co-op in the county, and that co-op has been in existence for over 50 years. It's a vegetarian, certified organic, very specific cooperative that exists. Not here. Most people around here don't even know that it exists. They're not shopping there. And so there really is not a cooperative community in Southern California in general. There's several of us that are in the process, but it is not something that is familiar in this area. So many people do not even know that it exists at all. So when it came to fundraising, we made a decision a while ago, one that we wanted to try to open without debt, because we are really wanting to make sure we can offer good pricing for low income residents. We do not have a full service grocery store here where we live. And we have a large Navy community, large elderly community. So we really want to make sure that we have affordable pricing. That's really important to everybody everywhere, but in Southern California, it becomes even additionally important. And so in order for us to do that, taking on a debt service was going to be really difficult. So we're trying really hard to not open without debt. The other thing we're trying not to do is we're not doing any type of owner loan campaigns. So we did not ask our ownership to loan money. We didn't do any type of campaign that way. So in that sense, things have been a little different. It required different strategies around fundraising. Our primary strategy has been grant funding. We've been very successful there. Our overall project cost is $4.2 million. We've raised about $2 million of that, primarily through grants at this point. So just to sort of set where we're coming from when it comes to our fundraising. So one of our owners is very invested in helping the co-op succeed. He is very well off. He has a lot of resources at his disposal. And so he, at different points has provided some smaller sort of funding to the co-op to help us through some challenging points that we've had. But he's also really well connected. And so where we're at in Imperial Beach is a low to moderate income community. A nearby community, Coronado, California, which a lot of people tend to be familiar with, is the complete opposite. It's a very wealthy, affluent community. And so he lives there, has a lot of connections there. And we have about 10% of our ownership is from that community. And so he approached us last fall, and that was the long warm up to this, that he approached us last fall and said, we'd like to support a fundraiser. I'd like to engage, some people from Coronado. I'd like to engage public officials. We're used to galas and these types of things. We attend them all the time. We'd like to do some type of large fundraiser, but please, dear God, it's not going to be a gala. So we don't want to sit in chairs. We don't want to hear people talking all the time. And he is well known in the community for throwing these like massive parties that are game parties. So think carnival games. So he puts together all these elaborate kind of silly, fun games and people go. So he wanted to sort of take that approach as a fundraiser for Suncoast. And so he tells us this in the fall and says that he has a goal of raising $250,000 through this event, and being a sponsor for the kitchen and deli for Suncoast. So as part of it, they wanted to really fund a large chunk of that, including naming rights around it. So we thought, okay, how do you say no to somebody who wants to help you raise $250,000? And so his suggestion was what if we made this a collaboration between Coronado, Imperial Beach, and then our Navy community? And we really try hard to connect these communities around Suncoast, and that's the goal. So that's what we did. He was willing to underwrite the event. So Suncoast did not have to do anything financially for the event. He gave us some seed money to get it started, but really through a lot of the connections, we were able to find a lot of locations and services and all of these things. A lot of people became very involved. He wanted to do that event in a few months. And so we knew better that things take a lot longer than you ever think. And so ultimately we ended up setting a time to do it in mid-March of this year. So we really only had less than 6 months, five-ish months with the holidays in there to plan a very large $250,000 gala event. So because it was important that there was a collaboration between all communities, he set up committees with people from Imperial Beach, Coronado, and the Navy. And so we had a series of meetings throughout the course of time, sort of as a broader community. So that's how it sort of got organized and started. And then
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the funding then, so this generous human, which don't we all wish we had someone like this in our communities?
We've been so fortunate, and he doesn't want any
Yes.
recognition.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
fantastic. So wonderful. So he provided upfront seed funding to do some of the groundwork you needed. And then did he cover all of the costs of events? So like food and space and all of that logistical support?
Yes. So I would say he probably underestimated how much the cost were going to be, but also it's okay. He was fine with that, that there might be
Mhm.
additional costs. So we worked
Mhm.
very hard to utilize our resources and contacts, in order to offset costs of the program. So really, in the end, the cost of Suncoast was very minimal. We provided some swag at the event, things like that. But other than that, he covered all the costs.
Do you know what the costs were? Is there a total dollar figure?
Yes. So the overall cost of the event, at least to my knowledge, this one of the lessons learned is how difficult it is to actually track these kinds of things. It was about $35,000. But that included an $8,500 pre-event. So he wanted to sort of grease the wheels and warm up some of the larger donors. And he is part owner in a local French restaurant. And the chef of that restaurant is very well known. He has other restaurants around town. So they collaborated together to do this large dinner to the tune of $8,500.
Wow. This just keeps getting more and more.
Yeah. So this part
remarkable.
is not, I wouldn't say like going to be that helpful for other people. This was something very specific for him, his friend group. He is a people person. He loves breaking bread with people. He likes face to face. He likes fun and he likes game. Like this was very important to him to not invite his friends to a fundraiser.
Gotcha.
That makes sense. Right. So he wanted to really make it sort of a friend event. So, a large $8,500 is a lot of money. Outside of that, costs, the rentals that included sort of, we had to have a tent and tables and chairs and linens and all of those kinds of things was about $7,300. The facility was $4,000. He had a band that was $1,500. And there was about $2,000 at the end of the night in the drink tab. Although we did have a lot of donations and drinks, he did want to have an open bar.
Oh, wow. Cool. Okay. So
$2,000 there's a 300-person event. So
300 people. Okay. And did it sell out? Or did you have a max of tickets? And
yes. Yes and yes.
Okay. And what was the ticket price?
So that's a really good question. Let me see if I was going to share with you something that might be helpful so you can see, because we did have a tiered, pricing plan that we did in order to make this, different. So we had sponsors, just like you would in a traditional gala. So I would say, although the event wasn't a gala where people were going to come into a giant ballroom and they were going to, sit down and listen to speakers and all that, we didn't do that. We did take some elements of traditional galas, which was purchasing tables, having a ticket price. So here on the screen, let me see here. This was the invitation that we had. And we had a large sponsor packet. So the sponsor opportunities we had, the highest level was a $10,000 table, and we had a $5,000 table, or tickets, and then a $2,500 ticket level. And then we had a $250 per person ticket price. If somebody was a Suncoast owner or military, they got a discount on that. Because we also don't want to alienate people in our community. We did have some sort of scholarship funding. So if there was somebody that really wanted to go, we were able to sort of help with that. Although we had sellout. Okay.
And then the total raised that night was 250,000 then?
No. So we raised 150,000 through that event, and the other 100,000 came after, or I guess is a pledge to us. So the remaining 100,000 will be a pledge. So yes, it will be a $250,000 overall. 150 came that night. 100,000 is pledged for the future.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Sue, looks like Sue has a question.
I do.
Yes.
Are you incorporated as a nonprofit?
Good question. So no, Suncoast is in the state of California is required to be a cooperative corporation. But we do have a fiscal sponsor through the California Center for Cooperative Development. We also have, and which we'll use for this event, a nonprofit wing called the Suncoast Community Fund. So that is the nonprofit wing that we use for this particular event. So people were able to get a tax deduction. All went through there. We did have to pay service fees through that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to keep asking Shannon questions, but you guys, just like Sue just did, please feel free to jump in when you have, something come to mind that you'd like to know about. Okay. So, total raise is significant. I mean, that's, a chunk of money. Had you not had the costs underwritten and this individual organized to assist in such a significant way, do you think the co-op would have pursued this kind of event?
So probably not at the level that we did. That's for sure. So there are some things that, for this event that were very important to the donor. All right. And so those would be things that, maybe the co-op wouldn't have done and could have reduced the cost as a result. $8,500 dinner wouldn't be something that the co-op would underwrite. The band, like there would have been probably some other places that it could have been cut. There was so yes, I think it's worth doing. I say this because I'm removed now several months from this event. What I need to say very clearly is this event was absolutely exhausting. It nearly killed the two of us that were part of it. I think at the time I vowed that I would never
do it
say
again.
that I was busy, right? I'll never ever say how busy I am because I cannot imagine ever being busier than through this event. And so it took a tremendous amount of work. The idea of having a committee with different people from different places is really nice in theory. And then I can say this in this room with everybody because a lot of people have ideas. A lot of people offer to help. But what people are actually capable of doing and willing to do to see things through is different, right? And so the more people that are involved, the more ideas you have, the more like squirrels that you're chasing in the project. So really just even trying to narrow down all of the ideas into a single event was tricky. So we had it sort of started as like, well, maybe it would be like a farmer's market, like a bougie farmer's market event, right? But then it was like, but then there'll be games, but then there will be a band, but then there will be there's a lot of stuff that was happening. So try to find like cohesion across that. It took a lot of the planning was in the end.
Yes, right. The execution, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was like there was so much in the idea phase. So it was really, really a lot of work.
Yeah.
So my advice would be that because it was a lot of work, raising a lot of money became possible. But it doesn't mean that to have a successful event, you need to raise $150,000 or $250,000, right? So there are ways to sort of scale it down to raise a lot of money that I think would be great. So let me show a couple of things about what we did, and then I can tell you a little bit about, I think, maybe what was best received, what people really like. So first of all, you can see on the screen, we have these different like sponsorship levels.
We don't see those sponsorship levels, Shannon. No, we see the invitation still.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't show on the side. If I switch this, is it showing you the location?
Nope.
Oh, interesting. Okay. What is it sharing? All right, let me switch and then try resharing here, do it different. page. Okay, there we go. Now, can you see it?
There we see him.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. This is what I thought you were seeing throughout. Okay. So these were the different sponsorship levels and things that you got at different sponsorship levels. So somebody that paid $10,000 got a table for 8. We had a VIP area that had, so people could come in early to the event, and there was drinks and seafood and like all this stuff that ended up being donated. There was parking, there was a hosted bar, there was recognition and materials. They got a swag bag with different items that we had donated. And then the donor really wanted to have these dinner experiences afterwards, like so that people could go out to dinner together afterwards. And so these were sort of like a raffle for fancy dinners. So, and then the tickets sort of went down from there. Everybody that attended got unlimited food. We had a lot of food. I'll show you up in a second. We had games. We had a lot of things happening. We had free drink tickets for people, and then for specialty drinks. Plus, we had a full bar. So that was really fun. The location was at the Coronado Cays Yacht Club. So the yacht club is in between Coronado and Imperial Beach, and right near the Navy complex, in the area where a lot of Navy families live. We have a lot of owners that are part of the yacht club. So we were able to rent the space for $4,000. That included a lot of services. So that was really helpful in helping to coordinate the event. So they have an event manager there that was able to help. So the space you can see here, there's this inside space that is the yacht club that has a, not a ballroom, but like a large room where you would do like weddings or things like that. They had a large patio area where we had a band and a VIP area. And then they have this large green grass round. It never rains in Southern California, but the week of the event was slated to rain. So in the end, we had to rent a large tent. Initially, the whole area was going to be sort of a food festival. They had to put it under a tent. It ended up not raining, ended up being a beautiful, hot day. But nevertheless, the tent's there. And then in the back area behind the tent, we had a large game area that was sort of like carnival style games. It was really fun. We had an owner that set up a photo booth and took photos as everybody came in. Very, very fun. We did a virtual reality station. That we used the Firebrand video that they did at one of the co-op conferences. It's a little outdated, but it was the best we had at the time. And so that was kind of fun. Everybody got gift bags with swag that was donated from local businesses. We used our farmers market and asked people if they wanted to donate. And so we paid $700 the co-op did for canvas bags for that. Really cute. There were grocery themed games like Holy Cow Pie, which was bean bags. It was a cornhole game, but it was painted like a cow's butt, so you had to throw the cow pies into the cow's butt.
That's funny.
Pickle in a basket, so they had to like throw like pickles in to get into this basket. There was lots of these like very fun games that were all grocery themed. There's like a scavenger hunt, and so this was all done by the donor and his family. So that was cute. For food, we had our food costs were only $700.
Wow.
And about 600 of that was for a charcuterie board. Otherwise, everything was donated. So
Wow.
we have done a number of cooking classes over the years. We've had partnerships with a local chef organization here. We've done a lot of different kids cooking programs and adult cooking programs with a variety of different people over the years. So we have really strong connections in the chef community as a result of this. So we went out to local restaurants, chefs, and they said that we want to do this event. It's going to be a food festival. You'll have it at the time, they were each going to have their own tent, and people were going to go from tent to tent to get food. And would you be willing to provide food? There'll be 300 people there, and, but not everybody's eating every single item, right? So
Sure.
in the end, we had 15 different chefs. So they're preparing a lot of food, and almost we paid, I think, $80 in food reimbursements. The rest of the food was either provided by the chef and restaurant completely or donated. I used local grocery stores, produce distributors. A lot of people are interested in supporting Suncoast because they want to be our distributor later, right? And so got a lot of donations. This particular part of the event was a lot of work. It almost killed me, but it ended up being amazing. I never saw any of this event because I was too busy the whole time, but I heard it was really, really great and the food was delicious. And so we had a lot of chefs. So we had a chef that was preparing ahi tuna live on site. So that was like an event. We have an owner that has a paella catering business. So he had this like giant stations.
Cool.
Yeah. And so you can see here people would go from station to station and be able to select food from different chefs and organizations. So like this organization here in the middle with 5 people holding the food. This is a Kitchenistas program. So it's a train the trainer program for women in the Latinx community to be able to learn how to prepare traditional dishes in new and healthy, nutritious ways. Not that traditional recipes aren't nutritious. And so they came, we partnered with them a lot. So they were preparing things. So it was a way for some organizations to participate and share what their missions are with guests. So it was really a really nice collaborative effort. So each person got a big, large plate and they were able to go from station to station and pick and choose what they wanted to eat throughout the night. Very, very fun. We had dessert and coffee and beverages that were there. So we had a local brewery donate beer. We had a local sake business donating sake and doing a tasting station. We have a local kombucha brewery. So they were providing alcoholic and non-alcoholic kombucha that they donated. The wine was the only thing that wasn't local because the donor has a friend that has a very fancy vineyard, and so we did a lot of this environmental sustainability things for the event, but then also wine was flown in from a private vineyard for his guests.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was wine that was also there that wasn't local, but a lot of it was like just local places being able to showcase their local items.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So it was very cool. And we were trying to give like a little glimpse of what the co-op could be for people.
Sure.
We had like a extremely large 6x6 charcuterie board or charcuterie station. And so it was this giant station where small businesses contributed. So we have like a local vegan cheese maker, that was on there. We had made local bread.
What a great idea this is.
Yeah, so they could go around. So there's something like this that I think you could take into.
Absolutely. This local charcuterie board, I think, could have application across the board.
Super, super. It was very cool. Pickles.
Very cool.
And like, I'm just lots of really fun things that showcase local. And so, we made little tags for each thing so people got to know it. So we're trying to think through like, how do we teach people what a co-op is here at this particular event that is large. So we had a band throughout the whole place. We had different things about the co-op. So we had the specs of what our co-op was going to look like. We had places where people could write wish list items. We had board members were stationed throughout to be able to answer questions. So we really tried to have just the co-op everywhere. We had a running presentation. There was several TV screens at the place. So I just put together lots of like different fast facts of like things that we've, showing our cooking programs that we've done, showing what our store is going to be like, highlighting co-op, facts and cooperative principles. So people were exposed to this all night long as they were walking around. So people were able to eat. have some drinks, play games, have a good old time. And then we did bring everybody in. The donor wanted to limit the presentation to 20 minutes, including the paddle up. So we did do a paddle up auction. So we didn't have a lot of time. So I did a presentation about the co-op, and in general, I have a very like fun meter that I like to keep very high. So the whole goal was like, let's keep this super fun. So we did a lot of just like co-op highlights that were very, very fun, getting people really energized. Because remember, people have been drinking and having a good old time. So we didn't want to bring them down.
Right.
There's an MC. He's the guy that does the TV show Tiny House.
Oh, yeah.
He MC'd the event for free for us. So then he came in after I gave a presentation to do a paddle up. We did one investment that we did make from for this event was we did create a video. So it's a video we could use later, but it was really a video about the co-op. It's really inspirational. People were tearing up. So we showed that as we went to go into our fundraising. So the fundraise, yeah.
Sorry, can you clarify what a paddle up is? I'm not familiar with that term.
Yes. So here on the bottom in the right corner, you can see people are holding up their numbers on the paddle. So paddle up is like is sort of like an auction. So how we did it is there's a concept in the nonprofit world called fund a need. So if you think about somebody that's serving a homeless population, you might say like, oh, for $30, you could pay for, dinner for 10 people, or the shelter needs a new refrigerator, and then somebody can pay that amount. So we sort of modified that concept for this fundraiser. So we took our full equipment list for the kitchen and deli, because this event, the event was going to be paying for the kitchen and deli. That was the goal. So we took all of the items that we need for the kitchen and deli and broke them into different categories. And so so the MC would say, here, if you can donate $1,000, you'll be paying for things like, and then on the screen, we had different items that were in the $1,000 category. For $25,000, you would find items in this category. For $500, you would do this, or for $50, you can buy a grocery basket, right? And so people would raise their paddles to whatever donation amount they wanted to make. So they weren't taking anything home. They weren't, buying a dinner cruise for two. They were helping to purchase equipment by raising their paddle at whatever amount felt comfortable to them.
And logistically, how do you keep track of that?
Yes. Logistically, you have a lot of people around the room that are tracking it. So there was about 6 of us throughout the room that for each item would write down the paddle number. So when people arrived and they checked in, they were all given a bag that included a paddle with a number on it. Got it. So we knew that, Sally Smith was paddle number 73. And so when 73 was raised, we had it there. And this is all done through a system that we paid for called GiveSmart. It was recommended to us to use this system called GiveSmart that's used for a lot of schools and nonprofits. It was about $1,200 to purchase the platform. And it claims to help you from invitation all the way through collecting money and sending thank yous and donation receipts. Kind of everything is streamlined. Although it's true, the learning curve is not small on this. So it was a little bit complicated, given that there's only a few of us that were really planning this whole thing. And so kind of utilizing it to its full effect, probably we didn't do, but so they come in and everybody's registered in this system. And at the end, you can invoice people. So Sally Smith raised her paddle for $1,000. You invoice $1,000 at the end of the event.
Gotcha. And that's an email invoice, I'm guessing, to how they
and
registered, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So that part, that logistically, this part is not easy. Because the systems sort of claim to be able to invoice people later and people could have their card saved on file. Some of that didn't happen. So my one tip I would have is to make sure people pay before they go. This system is supposed to help not have to deal with like that financial checkout, but it did take a lot of work to try to catch up with people later. They weren't able to maybe use technology well, and so then they weren't able to pay through the system and just stuff like that.
Right.
And so we probably were a little overconfident that the system was going to work as it claimed. And so we probably should have done what we originally had thought, which was old school co-op way. Like you come over and then we take your payment and then you go home. But it did work. I mean, we were able to raise quite a bit of money to the paddle up. I think $35,000 or something like that came through this part of the event.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's good to know.
So, and then there was also a raffle. So it was extremely important to one of the volunteers to have a raffle. I would say I'd be happy to never do a raffle again in my whole life. I don't like raffles very much. I always think they're a lot of work for not a lot of payoff, which proved to be true in this. That ended up being one of the biggest regrets and complaints of the night, was that the raffle took too much time. So we had a program of 20 minutes and then the raffle came in and took additional 20 minutes. We didn't plan on seating people for very long because it was 20 minutes, right? People were going to just come in, be standing up, and then they were going to be back out and they were going to go back to the party. The raffle ended up just bringing the vibe way down.
And so how did the raffle take time, Shannon? Can you
so they were
articulate
pulling
that
tickets. Yeah.
Okay, like one at a time, like you win the bicycle. Oh, okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I think I can't remember. I have to look at my notes, but I think it's like maybe $1,200 or something came out of this raffle for
a geez, really
$50,000 event. Like it doesn't make any sense. And so yeah, it was literally pulling them out of the bucket. That wasn't the plan going into the event, but it just happened.
Yeah.
Like it was sort of one person's big idea, and they were really committed to like seeing it through. And so, but vibe came way down.
Yeah. What about the transfer of people? Whenever I've been involved with an event, when you've got to get people from one spot to another spot, you lose people or they lose interest or they don't, it's like herding cats usually. How did that go? And how did you ensure you got people where they needed to be?
Yeah, it was definitely herding cats. And also when people entered in and they came into the check-in, we sort of funneled people in that way. And then they were sort of stuck. It was an only way to leave is to go through the one main front door. And so the majority of the event was outside in the back. But there was sound system. So we were able to use the sound system to be able to try to get people, but it was really mainly me going around telling people to move. Yeah, it's because people didn't want to leave the food area.
Right? The food at the fun and the drinks and the games. Yeah, that would be hard to leave. Yeah.
People did not want to, they were just not into there in the middle of conversations or having a good time. They did not want to come into a paddle up. So what we did is we just put dessert after the paddle up. And so we made it so that basically the whole event had to turn over during the 25 minutes of the paddle up. That tent area had to get transformed from a complete dinner chef station into like
the dessert station.
Yeah. So I just kept telling people like, you have to go because we're turning this over.
Yeah, we got to do something here.
Yes.
How long was the event, Shannon? What time did it end? Started at 5?
It's so 5:30. Yeah, we had early entrance around 4:30. Everybody was gone by 9.
Oh, okay.
9:30. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a little longer.
What's that?
So for the amount of stuff we had, like there's a lot of things that we had on the agenda in a short amount of time. And so, but yeah, it was a longer event for sure.
Okay.
But the space did a lot of the cleanup. Right.
Nice. That's helpful.
And one thing that we prioritized, I'll show you just a few pictures. One thing we prioritized, we did hire an event planner. So my neighbor is a wedding planner, event planner. She's familiar with this particular space. I think we paid $1,500 for her in the end. That was the best money we've ever paid because she has all the connections for tables and chairs and tents, and she knows about permits and who to call, and is a specialist in, emergency management around like anything that can happen. She coordinate with on the event day, all of the chefs, getting people in and out. So nobody on our team had to do any of the sort of logistics on the day of around that. So
Oh, that's helpful. Yeah.
she helped make sure that everybody was tipped at the end of the night.
Awesome.
Made sure that she was there the next day. She was there when the rentals were delivered. She was there when they were picked up the next day.
Yeah, because that's a lot of work right there. Just that
A
part.
lot.
Yeah.
A lot. I mean, there's just things that come up on the event, like at the day of, the city had an issue with a tent not having the specific permits that apparently was maybe or maybe not needed. Like the fire marshal has to come and inspect for events. Like there's just a lot of things that happen that I think it's really, when you have an event planner, they know that those things are going to happen.
Sure.
Where I would not have known. I would have been frustrated.
Right. It sounds kind of like a wedding on steroids.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
If you've ever planned a wedding,
you
probably didn't do it in a few months.
Right. And you wished you'd done
roadmap.
everything differently, or, changed this or that, or didn't put so much time and energy into that. Yeah.
So it was really fun in the end. Like people had a really, 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 really great time.
Everyone looks like they're having a wonderful time. Yeah.
We had fun. We had a lot of public officials there. That came. We had large donors that were there. The event led to, there was a lot of press. So we put out, we did some paid and unpaid news stories. Everybody was posting about it in the paper. There was a lot of people there that were connected. So since then we've gotten grants, so I'm not including that in the fundraising, but as a result, we've also gotten grant funding for other things that the co-op needed. So outreach management, we have a Spanish speaking coordinator that we've got grant funding for. So there's just some things that came out of that were.
What about owners? Did you grow owners at the event?
No.
Wow.
We did not. So this nearly everyone. So I won't say that we didn't get any owners. We did definitely get owners in the press period prior to the event.
Okay.
So we did have people joining, didn't know that we were going to be doing this, but they saw it in the paper. But not a lot.
Okay.
So, maybe in the end, it's hard to say because you never know exactly where people came from, but
how they came on board.
Yeah, maybe
15. Okay.
Mostly it was owners that were there and some public officials that can't become owners anyways. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, I feel like I've been asking a lot of questions. I'm going to be quiet for a minute, see if anyone else has questions to ask you, Shannon.
I was just curious how many people ended up attending.
300.
300?
Yeah.
And I may have missed this, but did you charge X dollars for entrance for coming?
Yes. So the ticket prices, they ranged anywhere from a $10,000 table down to a $200 ticket.
Oh, okay.
So lots of complaints about that from the ownership. But the best that we could say is this is a fundraiser. It's a big fundraiser. We have to charge money. We have a lot of free events.
Did you get any tables?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
What kind of places did the tables?
So it was funny. It was different things. So we had some businesses that did the water company did a sponsorship, local dispensary did a sponsorship level. But then we had a wealthy family that she wanted to have a table, and so she could invite her friends to come in. We had a couple pickleball teams that they play pickleball together, and so they purchased tables. So we definitely did have people that purchased the tables. We weren't quite sure, but again, people that are used to attending galas are often used to that sort of model around a sponsorship of a table. So I think that's probably part of it. We had a local gym that did a $2,500 sponsorship. I think we had two $10,000 tables, a few $5,000 tables, several $2,500 tickets. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we did offer sponsorship to some different like businesses, like the trash collection company and local service utility providers that are also used to sponsoring events. And so we get a little bit there. Yeah. So they didn't actually attend the event, but they did act as a sponsor.
Great. And I'm sorry, what did you say you made off the event altogether?
250,000.
250. Holy cow, that's huge.
Yes. And so I would say that's an extremely large fundraiser for any type of gala event.
Yeah, we actually
through connections and donations. So
yeah. We have a fundraiser for our county humane society tomorrow, our gala for that, and we might average like 15 to 25,000 that we make, and we spend 10 to 15,000 on it approximately. We do a silent auction, like kind of what you had with the paddles for actual prizes, and then we also we do a live auction like that, and then we have a silent auction as well usually, but and then the raffle too, like you were talking about. I don't know, I guess I don't think we actually do gather people together around for that raffle at all, and it doesn't take any time out of our gala. We have everybody put their contact information on it, and it's just a 50-50 raffle, so they're not taking gifts home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've seen raffles done too, where you can have a board where all the prizes are listed and you put the names on the board and you just go check the board at the end of the night and see if you won. Yeah, that works too. Okay, who else has questions? Go ahead, Sue.
I do. I'm curious how your general population, how your general membership, how much did they participate? The people who are not the wealthy people from Coronado.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying not to do it. I just wondered if you got a lot of blowback from your regular people, regular viewers.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say we got a lot of blowback, but we did, and we expected it. I mean, it's pretty hard to put out a $200 ticket price event. Although I will say that the price per person for the event was, I was gonna look that. I think it was $150 a person. So I mean,
like the cost to do it.
Yeah.
So you really, I mean, to make anything at all, you would have had to charge at least that. Yeah.
Yes. So we did have the person that, again, that was underwriting the event. But if you're planning this, the cost per person for an event, any type of large fundraiser, is a lot. And so there's no way to have a $50 ticket for an event like this, right?
Right.
Because you also have, legally, when it comes to a donation, there's a certain percentage that can be tax deductible.
Qualifies, right.
Yes. And so you can't, like, those people's donation, they wouldn't be donating to the event. So we just had to have a clear message that this is a fundraiser for $250,000 to build a kitchen, and sort of find a way to market it as like, this isn't an event. This is not an ownership event, right? This isn't an owner engagement event. This is a fundraiser for $250,000 to build our kitchen and deli. And if there were people that really wanted to attend, like I said, they could if they reached out to us, we offered discounted tickets. So, we just didn't, but it was fine. It was fine in the end. We raised the money. People are happy, right?
Yeah,
It was like,
right.
we can either raise the money doing this, or we can go out and
Or
ask
you
our-
can loan us money or buy preferred shares or yeah.
you want
right.
a $250,000 preferred share campaign, right?
Yeah.
And they don't. So
Yeah. And I think I remember Shannon paying, I pay attention to a lot of co-ops. I follow almost all of y'all on social media and I subscribe to newsletters where I can. I remember there being conversation, in your public communication about the fact that this is a way for the community to participate that doesn't involve, a loan campaign or a preferred share campaign. Like that was made part of your messaging.
that's exactly right.
Yeah. Like we can do it this way or we can do it that way.
In general, we all struggle with trying to help people understand that like $4.2 million doesn't come out of nowhere. I mean, it has to be raised.
Right.
And that's very hard for the ownership to wrap their head around.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand where the money comes from a grocery store in general.
Right.
Like, well, never, I don't think about anything.
Who knows, right?
But
Who thought of it? Yeah. Right.
exactly. Like until I started doing this, I never thought about how much it costs to build a grocery store,
Right. Would you say, or could you quantify the amount of time that you invested or that the co-op invested, like on hour by hour, could we quantify that at all?
It's so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I cannot express how well prepared you have to be for the time. Like if you do not have a good dedicated core group of people that are good at follow through, organizing details, like I would not recommend doing anything on a large scale, because it's a lot. And the two of us that did a lot of it are also working full time. I mean, we were just beat.
Yeah.
It's not to say that our board didn't do a lot, because they did. Like
It just takes a lot.
But you have to have a couple of people who do all of the things, right? Who know all of it. And so it's a lot of time. I would say though, if you were looking for something like what people really loved is the food festival element of what we did, right? So if I was going to say, like, if there's something where there's an opportunity to raise money, if you can sort of adapt that food festival part, we had 15 different like chefs and restaurants that did it. We put together sponsor pack, like very clear information about like what it would be to be involved. And like, that is a place that you could go and people had a great time just around the food itself. And I think you could charge a good amount of money. If you had a good location that you can do it, we didn't need that giant tent in the end, right? Mm-hmm. We weren't planning on having it to begin. We were going to do individual tents. It was going to be set up that way. But people would buy it. And again, you have to tell people like, there's a cost because this is a fundraiser. Right. And it's not a cover charge to get into a bar. Like you're
right.
But I think you could charge a pretty good ticket price for something like that, as long as you can get people to donate. Like I said, that took a lot of work for me to like reach out to people, reach out to grocery stores. Other grocery stores contributed money. I mean, or contributed produce, but you had that part alone is a lot of work, but their payoff, I think, is
that's where you'd make the investment again.
That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gotcha.
And I think you could do a paddle up there.
Mm-hmm.
Paddle up is really fun. The fund to need idea is good. We've carried that over. So right now we have a fund to need campaign on our website for equipment that people can go in and donate at different levels to pay for different pieces of equipment for the store. Yeah. And so we did it live, and now it's online, and it's kind of like a GoFundMe. I think you could do that and have, you're probably not going to get 250,000 out of it, but you could probably have maybe a $50,000 fundraiser if you really want it. And and have the people to do it.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we're at 12:59. Thank you so much, Shannon, and congratulations on such a fantastic event. And I want to personally thank you for investing that amount of time in your co-op. I mean, I know what that feels like to be at your wit's end and be almost at the end of the rope for an event of that nature. And I appreciate you, and the co-op world appreciates you. So.
Absolutely. If anybody wants to see any of the materials, or if you ever think about doing something like that, absolutely reach out. We've got a lot of resources that we put together for this, so we're happy to share.
Thank you. Thank you. Principle 6 in action. I love it. I love it. All right. Well, you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks for joining us. I'll send the recording if there are others who need to see this in your organization. So feel free to share it.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll see ya.